1347. The Genoese trading port of Kaffa, on the Black Sea coast of Crimea. A Mongol army has the city under siege, and inside their camp, soldiers are dying by the hundreds from a disease nobody can explain. Fever, agony, grotesque swellings in the neck, armpits, and groin, turning black before death arrives. Desperate and dying anyway, the Mongols do something almost unthinkable. They load the corpses of plague victims onto catapults and hurl them over the city walls, one after another. An act of biological warfare, centuries before anyone has a word for it. Terrified merchants trapped inside watch bodies rain down into their streets. They flee Kaffa by ship, sailing for home, desperate to outrun whatever this is. They have no idea they're carrying the most catastrophic disease outbreak in recorded human history directly into the heart of Europe. The real killer isn't the soldiers, or the corpses, or even the sailors themselves. It's the rats scurrying in the ballast below deck, and the fleas riding on their backs, carrying a bacterium called Yersinia pestis in their gut, invisible, silent, already spreading from ship to ship in the dark. October 1347. 12 Genoese ships drift into the harbor at Messina, Sicily, some of them barely under control. Dock workers who climb aboard to help find something horrifying. Most of the sailors are already dead at their posts. The few still alive are covered in black, swollen boils, burning with fever, too far gone to even speak. Horrified locals order the ships back out to sea immediately, screaming at them to leave. It's already too late. Within days, the disease is spreading through Messina itself, and from there it doesn't stop. It moves inland along trade roads. It rides fresh ships down the coast to Genoa, to Venice, to Marseille. By the following year, it's in Paris, in London, in Germany, in Scandinavia. A wave of death spreading across an entire continent, faster than anyone can understand what's happening, let alone stop it. People start calling it simply the Great Mortality. Later generations will call it the Black Death. Nobody in the 14th century has any concept of bacteria or germs. Doctors, trained in ancient Greek medicine, believe disease comes from bad air or an imbalance of the body's internal fluids. Their treatments reflected bloodletting, herbal poultices, burning incense to purify the air, desperate prayer. None of it works, and people can see that it doesn't. The disease itself is almost unimaginably brutal. Victims develop swollen, blackened lymph nodes called buboes, some the size of an egg, some the size of an apple, followed by fever, vomiting, and internal bleeding under the skin that leaves dark blotches spreading across the body. In the worst cases, when the infection reaches the lungs, it spreads directly from person to person through coughing alone, killing within 24 hours of the first symptom. Death comes fast. In many towns, a person wakes up healthy at dawn and is dead before nightfall. A spouse, a parent, a child, gone within the space of a single day, in the same bed they woke up in that morning. Entire families die within the same week, sometimes the same room. Parents abandon children rather than risk infection. Priests refuse to administer last rites, terrified of catching it themselves at a dying person's bedside. Bodies pile up in the streets faster than anyone can bury them. City governments dig mass graves called plague pits, and cart drivers move through towns at night, ringing bells, calling out for people to bring out their dead. In Florence, the writer Giovanni Boccaccio watches the city collapse around him and later describes brothers abandoning brothers and parents abandoning their own children as if they belonged to someone else entirely. Historians still debate exactly how exaggerated his account is. But nearly every surviving record from the period tells some version of the same story. A total collapse of the bonds that hold ordinary life together, happening within weeks, in city after city. Some people respond to the terror with an even darker instinct: blame. Across Europe, frightened communities turn on Jewish populations, spreading vicious rumors that Jews are deliberately poisoning wells to spread the disease. The accusations are baseless. Jewish communities are dying from the plague at the same rates as everyone else. But that doesn't stop the violence. Massacres sweep through dozens of cities in Germany, France, and Spain. Entire communities are wiped out, burned alive in some towns, despite a formal declaration from the Pope himself, stating plainly that Jews are not responsible and are dying from the plague just like everyone else. Other communities turn to religious extremism instead. Groups known as flagellants march from town to town, whipping their own bare backs bloody in ritual processions through the streets, convinced that public suffering might convince God to lift the plague. For a while, these processions draw enormous crowds, people desperate for anything that feels like control over the uncontrollable. It changes nothing about the death toll. Eventually, even the church condemns the movement as dangerously radical. Doctors who do try to treat plague victims take enormous personal risk. Staying at bedsides, most others are fleeing. Many die alongside their patients. In several cities, so many physicians perish that surviving town councils have to recruit replacements with almost no formal medical training at all, simply because there's no one else left willing to try. By 1351, roughly 4 years after those first ships limped into Messina, the wave finally begins to recede. The toll it leaves behind is almost impossible to comprehend. Historians estimate the Black Death kills somewhere between 75 and 200 million people across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. As much as half the entire population of Europe, gone in under half a decade. Entire villages simply vanish from the map. Fields left untended. Houses left standing empty. Doors still open, never resettled again. And yet, out of almost unimaginable devastation, something unexpected happens. With so much of the labor force dead, surviving peasants and workers suddenly find themselves holding something they've never had before: leverage. Labor becomes scarce. Wages rise dramatically, almost overnight, as landowners compete desperately for whoever's left to farm their fields. In England, nervous nobles try to pass laws freezing wages at pre-plague levels, and peasants defy them anyway, simply by walking to the next town and demanding better pay. It's one of the first real cracks in a feudal system that had held for centuries, a shift some historians credit with helping trigger uprisings like the Peasants' Revolt decades later. The disease itself doesn't vanish after 1351 either. It returns in smaller waves again and again over the following centuries, devastating London in 1665 and continuing to resurface in various regions well into the modern era, though never again at the scale of that first catastrophic outbreak. It takes over 500 years for science to finally explain what actually happened. In 1894, during an outbreak in Hong Kong, a scientist named Alexandre Yersin isolates the exact bacterium responsible, the same one still carried by rodents and fleas today, now named Yersinia pestis in his honor. So what actually caused the Black Death to spread so far, so fast? Not one single failure. A perfect, horrifying convergence of factors. A bacterium perfectly adapted to hitch a ride in flea-infested rats. A world newly connected by expanding trade routes, moving goods and people faster than ever before, and unknowingly, moving death right alongside them. And a 14th century understanding of medicine with absolutely no tools to fight an enemy, nobody could even see. And yet, in the middle of the worst catastrophe medieval Europe had ever faced, ordinary people kept trying anyway. Doctors stayed at bedsides despite the risk. Gravediggers kept working through their own exhaustion and grief, night after night. Families cared for each other until there was no one left standing to do it. The Black Death didn't just kill a staggering portion of the world's population. It rewrote the economics of an entire continent, cracked open the foundations of a social order that had lasted 1,000 years, and left behind a lesson it would take humanity centuries to fully understand. Sometimes, the smallest, most invisible things carry the greatest power to change the world.